The email hit me like a ton of bricks. My stomach dropped, literally. Plagiarism accusation. Just seeing those two words felt like a punch to the gut, making me double over on my dorm bed. Elara Vance, honor student, history of art major, about to graduate with flying colors, accused of being a cheat? No way. Absolutely no freaking way. My hands were shaking, not just a little tremor, but full-on vibrating. I could feel the cold sweat gathering on my back, tracing a path down my spine. This wasn't happening. I scrolled down the email, eyes darting, trying to make sense of the official jargon. Disciplinary committee, potential expulsion, loss of scholarship. Each word was a tiny hammer, smashing away at my future. "This is a joke," I muttered, my voice barely a whisper. My own voice sounded weird, strained. I reread the section they flagged. A whole paragraph, apparently lifted almost word for word from some old art history journal I'd never even heard of. But how? How could that be in my thesis? The thesis I'd poured my soul into for months, every single late night, every single cup of coffee, every single obscure historical detail. I'm not some academic fraud. Everyone knows Elara Vance is legit. I busted my ass for this. The thought made my blood boil, a hot, angry flush creeping up my neck. I wanted to scream, to throw my laptop across the room, but my hands just clenched, digging my nails into my palms. Gotta be calm, gotta think. The problem was, the harder I tried to remember writing that specific paragraph, the fuzzier things got. There was this weird blank spot in my memory, like a glitch in my brain. Especially that last week, the one leading up to the submission deadline. It was a blur of caffeine, instant noodles, and staring at a screen until my eyes burned. I'd basically been living on fumes, pulling all-nighters like they were going out of style. "Okay, Elara," I told myself, trying to catch my breath. Deep breaths. It's just stress, extreme stress, that's it. My brain scrambled for an explanation, something, anything, that made sense. I was so exhausted, so sleep-deprived. Maybe I just unconsciously copied something? Like my brain was so fried, I just went on autopilot and typed stuff without realizing where it came from? Or I read it somewhere, internalized it, and then thought it was my own original thought? People do that, right? When they're literally about to collapse from overwork? Yeah, that had to be it. It was like my mind was just on the fritz, a short circuit, a messed up brain moment. Who knows what crazy stuff you do when you're running on fumes, honestly? My body just took over. The thought made a twisted kind of sense, a desperate lifeline in a sea of panic. It wasn't intentional. I wasn't a cheat. I was just human. A human pushed to her absolute limit. The disciplinary committee, the scholarship, my whole career, my entire life plan, hanging by a thread. The pressure was suffocating, heavy like a physical weight on my chest. But I had to fight. I had to prove I wasn't some lying, scheming plagiarist. I just had to explain, find the words, make them see. A meeting with Professor Davies, my advisor, was set for the next morning. His office felt colder than usual, even with the late spring sun trying to peek through the blinds. He looked disappointed, his usual kind eyes clouded with something I couldn't quite name. Pity? Frustration? It hurt seeing that look directed at me. "Elara," he started, his voice soft but firm, "you know the school rules. Academic integrity is paramount here, especially for a student of your caliber." He gestured to the email printout on his desk, the damning paragraph highlighted in yellow. It's quite damning. I felt my cheeks flush, but I kept my chin up. "Professor, I swear, I didn't do this intentionally. I would never. I've worked too hard." My voice wavered a bit on the last part, but I quickly reined it in. I'm trying to remember. That last week was a lot. I talked about the sleepless nights, the relentless grind, how my brain felt like scrambled eggs by the time I hit submit. He listened, nodding slowly, not quite convinced, but at least not dismissing me outright. He told me to gather my thoughts, prepare my explanation. It was my only shot. Back in my dorm, the dread crept back, colder this time. I opened my laptop, the familiar hum doing little to soothe my nerves. My thesis file, a monster of 80-odd pages, stared back at me. I clicked it open, scrolling straight to the highlighted section. It was near the end, a dense paragraph about the socio-political implications of symbolist art movements in late 19th century France. My eyes scanned the words, then reread them, and again. I remembered that night, the final push. It was late, past 3 a.m., maybe even 4. I'd been at it for hours, staring at the screen until the words started to swim. My head felt heavy, like a bowling ball. My eyelids kept drooping, fighting against the need to finish. I'd even turned off my Wi-Fi, unplugged the router to stop any distractions, any notifications. Just me, my laptop, and the looming deadline. The room was pitch black, only the pale glow of the screen illuminating my face, like a ghost in the dark. I was alone, just me. I remembered thinking, no one else is touching this, just me. Definitely just super stressed, I muttered to the empty room, my voice a bit louder this time, trying to convince myself. My brain probably short-circuited. Who knows what messed up stuff you do when you're running on fumes? It had to be that. It was the only logical explanation. I was so convinced. As I stared at the paragraph again, something weird happened. The screen on my laptop flickered. Just a tiny flash, so quick I almost missed it, like a camera flash, but for a microsecond. My eyes blinked, trying to clear away the afterimage. What was that? A dying screen? My laptop was old. Maybe it was just giving up the ghost. Then, the mouse cursor, sitting idly on the page, seemed to twitch. It moved ever so slightly to the right, maybe a millimeter, then stopped, just sat there. I stared. Had I imagined that? My hand was nowhere near the trackpad. Probably just my crappy optical mouse, I mumbled, giving it a light tap. It's old anyway, always doing weird things. I tried to brush it off, to chalk it up to faulty tack. But as my eyes landed back on the plagiarized paragraph, a new sensation hit me. A cold draft, right on the back of my neck. It wasn't a chill from the open window. The window was closed, locked. This was different. It felt like something breathing? No, that's crazy. I shivered, my arms prickling with goosebumps. This paragraph, it felt alien, like it didn't belong. It didn't feel like my writing. The words were too sharp, too polished in a way that didn't match my exhaustion-induced prose. I shook my head, trying to clear the feeling. Are you getting delusional, Alara? Scared yourself crazy? I practically snapped at myself. Then a soft sound. Ting. So faint, almost inaudible. Like a tiny notification sound, a text message arriving. But there was no notification pop-up, nothing. No little banner at the top of the screen, no badge on any app icon. The sound just happened. And then it vanished, swallowed by the silence of the room as if it had never existed. My heart gave a little skip. My head whipped around, looking at the door, then back at the laptop. Nothing, just the soft hum of the machine. I just sat there, my breath held tight in my chest, feeling a prickle of unease slowly, steadily crawl up my throat. Okay, so the email was still buzzing in my head like a trapped fly, even days later. That whole plagiarism thing, total nightmare fuel. But I wasn't just gonna sit around and let them trash my future, no way. I had to fight this, right? Had to show them it was all some messed up misunderstanding. My laptop became my battlefield.
I spent hours hunched over it, digging through old files, looking for anything that could back me up. My thesis was like 80 pages of my blood, sweat, and tears, and I wasn't about to let some ghost paragraph mess it all up. At first, I felt pretty confident. Like, yeah, I was stressed, sleep-deprived, probably a bit manic, but I was innocent. I kept telling myself that. It was just a weird mental glitch, a temporary malfunction from too much caffeine and too many late nights. That had to be it. No other logical explanation. I mean, my computer was right here, in my dorm. Nobody else had access. Just me. Me and my totally fried brain. But then, things started to feel a little off, like a tiny crack in a perfectly smooth mirror. Nothing I could point to exactly, but you know that feeling, right? When something just isn't sitting right, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
I decided to be proactive, get some technical backup. First thing, I downloaded one of those heavy-duty antivirus programs, the kind that digs into every corner of your hard drive. Ran a full scan. It took ages, the little progress bar crawling slower than a snail on tranquilizers. My stomach was doing flips the whole time. What if it found something? Some weird malware? Some obscure virus I didn't even know I had? That would explain things, maybe. Finally, a big green check mark. No threats detected. I let out a long, shaky breath, leaning back in my chair. See, I muttered to myself, rubbing my temples. Just being paranoid, Alara. Totally overthinking everything. It's just stress. A wave of relief washed over me, warm and soothing. For a minute, anyway. Then I started tidying up my thesis folder. You know, making sure everything was neat, just in case the committee wanted to look at my workflow or whatever. Scrolling through, past all my drafts and research papers and image files, I spotted something weird. A file. No name, no extension. Just a tiny, generic icon. And the size? Like a few kilobytes. Nothing. It was tucked away deep inside a subfolder, like it was trying to hide. I frowned, my eyebrows practically touching. What the hell was that? My finger hovered over the delete button. It felt wrong, like it shouldn't be there. But then I shrugged, pulling my hand away. Probably just some temporary system file, right? Windows does that sometimes, leaves behind little digital crumbs. No biggie. I told myself to focus, to not let every little thing freak me out. Nights were the worst. After the sun dipped below the horizon and the dorm hall went quiet, my nerves started to fray. I'd be working, or trying to, and then I'd hear things. Soft sounds. A gentle tap, tap from the wall next to me, like someone was tapping a pencil. Then it would stop, and a faint rustling sound, like paper being shuffled, from the hallway. I'd freeze, my head snapping up. I'd turn off my desk lamp, sitting there in the dark, barely breathing. My eyes would dart around the room, trying to make sense of the shadows. My heart felt like it was doing a drum solo in my chest. Just mice, I'd whisper into the dark, my voice thin. Or the wind, yeah, the wind. The windows were locked tight, but hey, old dorms are drafty, right? It had to be. It had to be. One night, it happened again. I was staring at my screen, editing a bibliography, when the whole display just went black for a split second. Then it flickered back on, like nothing had happened. Too fast, too quick to really register, to even know if I'd actually seen it or just imagined it. But it was enough. Enough to make me jump, my hands flying off the keyboard. It felt like the screen had taken a breath, you know, like it had blinked. My laptop was getting old, sure, but it never did that before. Not like that. I needed to talk to someone, like seriously talk. So I grabbed my phone, fingers flying across the keypad, texting Maya, my best friend. She's always been the logical one, the one who talks me down from the edge. OMG, Maya, I typed, feeling my thumbs ache. I swear to God, I feel like I'm haunted. My laptop is acting weird, I'm hearing stuff, I can't explain it. And that damn plagiarism thing is still hanging over me. I think I'm losing my mind. I hit send, my chest feeling tight.
Just getting it out, even to her, made me feel a tiny bit better. Her reply popped up almost instantly. "Girl, you're not haunted. You're just beyond stressed. Seriously, calm down. Take a break. Drink some chamomile tea or something. You need sleep, Alara, like real sleep, not just those pathetic naps you've been taking." Her words were kind, reassuring, and they made sense. Total sense. Of course I was just stressed. Of course my brain was playing tricks on me. What else could it be, right? I tried to believe her, to let her calm logic wash over me. I tried. But then it happened again. That stupid file. The one with no name, no extension. The one I dismissed as a temp file. I had deleted it yesterday. Swear to God, I clicked delete and watched it vanish into the digital ether. But this morning, there it was, staring me down, right there, in the same folder, like it had just respawned. My eyes widened. What the hell is this? My voice was barely a whisper. I clicked it, hit delete again.
This time, I heard the faint shing of the file disappearing into the recycle bin. But my heart was pounding, a wild, frantic rhythm against my ribs. This wasn't normal. This wasn't a temp file. This was something else, something that shouldn't be here. Later that day, I was drafting a formal email to Professor Davies, trying to sound as rational and composed as possible, even though inside I was a coiled mess of anxiety. My fingers were flying across the keyboard, words pouring out. Then, out of nowhere, the letters on the screen went haywire. My keyboard was just typing, by itself. GHKLPOUT, a string of gibberish, just a few meaningless letters, then it stopped, like a glitch, like someone had slammed their hand down on the keys. I slammed my own hand on the desk next to the keyboard, a frustrated grunt escaping my lips. "This damn computer again!" I yelled, even though no one was around. I pulled out the keyboard, blew into the ports, jiggled the wires. Nothing. It worked fine again, just those few random letters. My hands were shaking, a cold tremor running through them. It was old, yes, but this kind of random ghost typing? Never. And the pop-up. Oh God, the pop-up. I was on some art history blog, trying to distract myself, when it suddenly, violently burst onto the screen. It wasn't one of those annoying banner ads for cheap flights or diet pills. This was different. Chaotic characters, like a keyboard had exploded. And a blurry black and white image, flashing for less than a blink, then gone. Poof, vanished as fast as it appeared. I rubbed my eyes hard, trying to clear the image. What was that? A face? A distorted landscape? I didn't know. It was too quick, a phantom image. But I definitely saw something. Something wrong. Something that just didn't belong. My breath hitched. I couldn't explain it. Not to myself, not to Maya, not to anyone. And the lack of explanation felt heavier than any logical one could have. One night, I was determined. I plugged in the Ethernet cable, made sure it clicked firmly into the port. Then I went to the Wi-Fi icon, clicked it off, airplane mode, everything. I wanted no distractions, no interruptions, no signals coming in or out. Just me and my thesis. Like that last night, the night the plagiarized paragraph appeared. I was going to recreate the conditions, prove that I was alone, isolated. I sat there, the room dark except for the pale glow of my screen, the hum of the laptop, a low murmur in the quiet. I typed, I researched, hours melted away. Then, clear as day, a tiny ding echoed from my laptop speakers. It was the sound of a network connection. My entire body went rigid. A cold feeling, sharp and sudden, shot down my spine, making the hair on my arms stand on end. I had unplugged everything. I had turned off the Wi-Fi. My eyes darted to the taskbar. The Wi-Fi icon was still grayed out, airplane mode still on. The Ethernet cable was still firmly plugged in. So, how?
How did that sound happen? I felt a hysterical laugh bubble up in my throat, dry and hollow. I quickly clamped my mouth shut, the sound catching there, raw and unsettling. "You're obsessed, Alara," I whispered, the words shaking. "You're seeing things, hearing things. You're just really, really stressed." I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to force the image of that grayed-out Wi-Fi icon, the impossible ding, out of my head. But it was there, and the cold feeling lingered, a phantom touch, reminding me that something in this room, something about this laptop, was fundamentally, terrifyingly wrong. The email about the hearing had been a punch to the gut, but here I was, walking into that sterile room like I owned the place. Or at least like I wasn't about to throw up. My legs felt like jelly, but I pushed through it, a tight knot of defiance in my chest. This was it, the moment of truth. My future, right here, hanging by a thread thinner than my last nerve. The room itself was all sharp edges and cold polished wood. Long table, high-backed chairs, and the faces, oh God, the faces. 4 of them, stone-faced professors, eyes like laser pointers, dissecting every inch of me. Professor Albright, the head of the committee, sat in the middle, her silver hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She just stared. No warmth, no hint of understanding, just professional, academic judgment. It felt like I was already guilty, pinned under their gaze.
I took my seat, trying to look calm, trying to breathe normally. My heart, though, it was doing a frantic little jig against my ribs. I could feel the pulse throbbing in my temples. They started with the formalities, the usual boring stuff, but every word felt like a hammer blow. Then it was my turn, my time to defend myself. "Members of the committee," I began, my voice surprisingly steady, though it felt like a stranger's in my own throat. I swallowed hard. "I know how serious this accusation is. Plagiarism. It's a violation of everything we stand for as academics. And I want to be absolutely clear. I would never, ever intentionally plagiarize." I looked directly at Professor Albright, trying to convey every ounce of my sincerity. That's just not who I am. It's not something I could ever accept doing. I went on, talking about the stress, the deadlines, the endless nights fueled by cheap coffee and pure adrenaline. I explained how my brain had felt fried, utterly exhausted, like static electricity buzzing behind my eyes. I believe it was a mistake," I said, my voice cracking just a little, but I pushed through. "A terrible, unconscious mistake born from extreme fatigue. I was so sleep-deprived, my mind must have just glitched. I might have accidentally copied something, revised it, without even realizing where it came from. It sounds crazy, I know, but I was the only one on my computer. I remember disconnecting everything, going into a kind of tunnel vision to finish. I truly believe it was an accidental lapse, a temporary malfunction of my own overworked mind." They listened, impassive. Then came the questions, sharp, unforgiving. "Ms. Vance, are you suggesting that you have no memory of writing this specific paragraph?" Professor Davies asked, his voice dry as dust. I have a blank spot," I admitted, feeling the heat creep up my neck. "I remember the general flow, the ideas, but that particular phrasing, it's just not there. It's like a fog." "A fog, Ms. Vance?" Professor Albright interjected, her tone skeptical. "For a student of your caliber, with your academic record, such a lapse seems improbable." "I understand it seems improbable," I insisted, leaning forward slightly, desperate to make them believe me. "But the pressure, the sheer exhaustion, it was immense. I was barely functioning. I can only assume my mind was playing tricks on me. I felt like I was twisting myself into knots, trying to make sense of something that even to me sounded like a pathetic excuse. I could feel their skepticism heavy in the air.
Like they knew I was lying, even though I swore I wasn't. This sucks. Then it was Mark Jensen's turn, the IT guy. He was young, maybe early 30s, with thick glasses and a nervous twitch in his eye. He fiddled with a remote, bringing up a series of graphs and timelines on a large screen. My stomach clenched. This was it. The cold, hard data. Would it betray me? Or would it finally prove my strange, desperate truth? He started talking about file metadata, timestamps, IP addresses. My eyes darted between him and the screen. He was explaining how my thesis file had been opened, saved, modified. He showed the exact time the disputed paragraph appeared. It was all so precise, so objective. I felt a tiny, fragile spark of hope flicker inside me. Maybe this was it. Maybe his data would show something, some corruption, some external interference. And here, he said, tapping a pointer at a spot on the timeline, you can see the final save timestamp for the version submitted. Everything appears to be in order. File integrity is good. He paused, looking at his notes, then glanced at the committee. We did, however, notice one very minor detail. My breath hitched. My eyes narrowed, focusing on him, trying to read his face. He cleared his throat. It's almost insignificant, really, likely just background network noise or a system glitch. But we did observe a small, almost negligible data stream, like a few kilobytes. It was sent from an unidentified IP address to Ms. Vance's laptop at approximately 3:17 a.m. on May 12th. That's just a few minutes before the plagiarized passage was officially incorporated into the final version of her thesis. He shrugged, a dismissive gesture. We assumed it was a system error or a local network interference, and frankly, we ignored it. It was too small to be meaningful. My blood ran cold. 3:17 a.m., May 12th.
The date, the time. It slammed into me like a physical blow. I felt a jolt, a sudden, sharp chill that started in my feet and raced up my spine, making the hair on my arms stand straight up. I instinctively turned my head, whipping around to look behind me, as if someone had just lightly tapped my shoulder. Nothing, just the cold, blank wall of the hearing room. My eyes, frantic, darted back to the screen Jensen was pointing at, and there it was. Just for a split second, a tiny, pulsing red dot on the graph, right at the 3:17 a.m. mark. A glitch? A flicker? It vanished as quickly as it appeared, but I saw it. I saw it. Jensen's voice was still going, explaining something, but it sounded distant, muffled, like he was talking through a thick layer of cotton wool. All I could hear was a low, persistent ringing in my ears, a prolonged, high-pitched ooh sound that blocked out everything else. And then, a whisper, a hoarse, guttural whisper, not in the room, but inside my head, right there, clear as day. Not you. My entire body went rigid. I stared blankly ahead, my vision swimming. My carefully constructed logic, all those desperate explanations I'd built for myself, the stress, the fatigue, the mental glitch, the old laptop, the imagined sounds, Maya's soothing voice telling me I was paranoid, it all crumbled. Every single piece of it. I remembered that night, the quiet hum of the laptop, the pale glow of the screen in the dark, the deliberate clicks of turning off the Wi-Fi, the satisfying thud of the Ethernet cable unplugging, airplane mode, everything. I wanted no distractions, no signals in or out, just me, alone, isolated. And yet, a data stream from an unidentified IP at 3:17 a.m., just before it appeared. My head snapped up, my eyes wide and unseeing, staring at the bland acoustical tiles of the ceiling. Then I slowly lowered my gaze, scanning the blank, unreadable faces of the committee members. They looked like statues, indifferent, uncaring.
A cold, heavy curtain seemed to descend, slowly, inevitably, wrapping around me, pressing in. If it wasn't me, and it wasn't a normal system error because I had disconnected everything, cut myself off completely from the outside world, then who? What the hell? Who was on my damn computer at 3:17 a.m.? And how? How did they get in? The question wasn't just a question anymore. It was an echoing scream in my skull, leaving behind a horrifying void where my certainty used to be. A chilling, bone-deep feeling, something utterly inexplicable, something that completely defied everything I knew, everything I believed about my own reality. What the hell is even happening in this world? My world? And why the fuck did I ever try to figure it out? The silence in the room suddenly felt heavier, thicker, pressing down on me, suffocating me. And I knew, with a terrifying certainty, that I was no longer alone in this. Not ever again.